You got your best friend pregnant. I wonder what he's talking about. A sense of detachment, as though it's someone else's problem, wells up inside me. But the reality hits me with the words Ella utters right in front of me. Well, that's the situation. So you're going to divorce Harry, right? Ivone can't believe it. Pregnant with Ella when I ask back, Ella smirks and continues with a mocking look. You figured it out, right? I'm taking your husband. So get out, gladly I reply, with a smile. Ella is really clueless. Does she think I knew nothing? Of course, that's not the case. I've known about their affair for quite a while. I just didn't confront them until I was ready. But now this saves me the trouble. They've basically confessed to cheating on me, so I'll return the affair with interest. Brace yourselves, smiling, I head to the front door. My name is Ivone Kirby. I'm a 34-year-old housewife working part-time. I head to the front door. At a supermarket, my husband Harry works at a car dealership for a well-known manufacturer. I think his salary is decent, but that doesn't mean we're rolling in dough. He needs to look sharp for work, and our daughter Elsie wants to attend a private middle school. She's just started 4th grade but will need more money for her exams. That's why I work part-time, to help out with finances. Ideally, I'd work full-time, but it's not that simple. The first issue is taking care of my mother-in-law. She lives alone, has mobility issues, and is elderly. She gets a pension, but my care and support are essential. The only silver lining is the house my late father-in-law built nearby. She lives there alone, having refused to move in with us to stay in her house full of memories. The second issue is Harry's job. He's always busy, leaving all the household chores to me. If I worked full-time, the housework would just pile up. Staying the course is the most realistic option, isn't it? I just can't take that final step. That's my current situation. But I knew from before we got married that I would be doing the household chores alone and that my mother-in-law would need care. So I'm not unhappy with how things are. But there's one thing I regret, becoming friends with Ella, who introduced me to Harry. Ella and I met in college. Back then, I was pretty plain. Ella, on the other hand, was popular and quite noticeable. Sure, Ella looked good and had a likable personality, but that was just a facade. The real Ella was the worst, however. I often hung out with Ella. I didn't realize this until much later. Unaware, I often hung out with Ella. Ivone, you got something on your mind. Ella would pat my shoulder lightly. I answered a bit shyly, I'm stuck on a report due next week. Is that all? I'm here for you. Let's work on it together. But hanging out with someone plain like me, won't people start looking at you funny? Ella. I glanced around and felt the weight of people's stares, their curiosity evident as to why Ella was in the company of someone as unremarkable as me. I turned away. What are you talking about? You and I have been best friends since we enrolled. Ella's words caused a stir around us. She cast a stern look at the onlookers. What, is it weird that Aone and I are best friends? I noticed a student shaking their head with a wry smile. Witnessing this, Ella drew me close and declared, we're total opposites, but we're best friends. Everyone, be nice to Aone, all right? Got it, I heard someone say slowly. I began to be accepted, all thanks to Ella's scheme. Ella frequently employed the phrase, I'll do it for you, whether it was, I'll hang out with you, or I'll wait for you. It subtly implied that my abilities were only viable because of her, insinuating my own naivety. Consequently, I started to believe that I could only accomplish things with Ella's assistance, attributing all success to her. In retrospect, it was a fallacy. I had been led to believe I wasn't competent enough. Unaware of this manipulation, I spent my college years overly reliant on Ella. Thus, when Ella requested a favor, I readily acquiesced. You're taking the car dealership's recruitment interview. I had my eye on that place too. Can you give it up for me? Ella implored. But I began to protest. Come on, Aone. We're friends, aren't we? Constantly comparing myself to Ella, I always felt inferior. Despite having similar grades, she excelled in personality and appearance. I felt I stood no chance if we both pursued the same opportunities. These insecurities made me yield easily. Then maybe I'll go for banking, I conceded. That's a good idea. You're more suited to be a hard-working bank employee, Aone, Ella affirmed. Ultimately, Ella secured the job at the car dealership, and I settled for a position in a bank. At the time, I didn't perceive it as part of Ella's plan. Rather, I deemed myself fortunate to have obtained a stable job by sacrificing the dealership position for her. Shortly after, Ella approached me with a proposition. I've got someone I want to introduce you to, Aone. Harry is my coworker. I think he's perfect for you. Why not give it a try? I'm sure about it. Let's meet him. Trusting Ella's judgment implicitly, I agreed. Following her introduction, I met Harry. We began dating, and during one of our outings, Harry confided, Yvonne, you're such a good person. I'd like to marry someone like you. Me? I asked, taken aback. But I can't ask you to marry me, Harry sighed. Curious, I inquired about his reservations, prompting Harry to disclose his familial obligations. His mother's mobility issues meant that his future spouse would need to assume caregiving responsibilities. This uncertainty clouded his decision to marry. It's okay. I don't mind at all. I'm occupied with work, and you'd handle the household chores. Are you sure? I reassured him. Yes, I'm sure. Leave it to me. Genuinely in love with Harry, I saw no issue with his circumstances. Thus, I agreed to marry him. However, my trust was soon shattered. Years into our marriage, while picking up Elsie from kindergarten, Daisy, usually a jovial fellow mom, approached me with a solemn expression. Hey, can we talk for a bit? Do you have time now? She asked. Sure, I'm off from work today, so I have a bit of time. Between housework and caring for my mother-in-law, engaging with other moms is important as Elsie's mother, so I followed Daisy to a nearby cafe, as she suggested. Once we ordered, Daisy began to talk. You see, I saw something. Our kids started eating their cakes, and Daisy shared her story. She had been going to a gym near the station for her diet. A few days ago, she saw Harry there. Daisy had met Harry at the kindergarten before, so she recognized him right away. But that's where the problem started. Harry was with an unknown woman, looking quite intimate. Daisy asked me with a stern face, isn't that cheating? Cheating? No way, that can't be, I replied, trying to hide my agitation. Daisy put her hand on mine as I gripped my cup tightly. Why don't we check it out secretly? If it's cheating, we might get some evidence. The idea of checking scared me, but I couldn't just ignore the possibility of infidelity. After some thought, I agreed to accompany Daisy to the gym. On the day, I left Elsie with my mother-in-law and met Daisy in the neighborhood. We headed to the gym together. We entered the gym as trial members. Soon, Harry arrived at the gym, but he was alone. No woman, no colleagues, no friends. Daisy's just jumping to conclusions, I thought, relieved. Then a familiar voice caught my attention. Sorry, I got a bit delayed. That voice, it's Ella. My heart skipped a beat. What were you up to? Had a troublesome customer kept making a fuss. Their cheerful conversation continued. Watching them, my heart ached. Feeling betrayed was the strongest emotion, followed by the shock that Ella, who was supposed to be my best friend, was involved. I took some photos. Is it okay? Daisy's voice brought me back. I nodded, but honestly, I was far from okay. My mind went blank. I don't remember much after that. According to Daisy, who filled me in later, the two left the gym and went to Ella's place. Apparently, I followed them with Daisy and even took photos of them entering the room. I don't remember it, but the evidence was clearly on my phone. With the evidence, it'd be better to divorce, Daisy advised me. But rushing into a divorce wasn't wise. Elsie is young, and I couldn't live on my part-time job alone. Just a little patience, just a bit more, and then I'll divorce him. From that day, I had a new goal in my life, to stabilize my living situation and secure a steady income to save up little by little, so I'd be ready for a divorce whenever it came. I focused on these two things, yet my heart wasn't calm. Every time Harry came home with a nonchalant face, I felt boiling anger inside. But somewhere in my heart, I still wanted to believe in Harry. So occasionally, I asked him things like this: Harry, why don't you take Elsie out sometime? I can't do that, you know. Being at the car dealership, my busiest times are when everyone else is off. He seemed like he didn't want to deal with our daughter. Child rearing was my job, like he was saying that. I just nodded. Okay, I see. How about visiting your mom on your days off? I don't really have anything to talk about with my mom. But you can't even take care of her. Usually, taking care of her is your job. Not mine. She's not a kid, so I'll stay out of it. Harry's tone grew stern, seemingly irritated. I closed my mouth, feeling dejected. It seemed like Harry had lost his affection, not just for me but for Elsie and my mother-in-law as well. I felt disappointed, yet somewhere relieved. Believe no more attachments. Those words floated in my mind. The following years were truly hellish. Living with Harry was just cohabitation. We barely spoke, and our interactions were minimal. Plus, as Elsie grew older, she started to despise Harry. I don't even need a dad like him, she would say things like that. One day, Harry had to go to the manufacturer's headquarters for work. Perfect timing, I thought, and headed to my mother-in-law's house with Elsie. During Harry's business trip, Elsie and I stayed at her grandmother's house. But the next day, I got a strange call from Harry, who was supposed to be away. "You're not home." "Where are you?" he asked abruptly. "I'm at your mom's." "What about your business trip?" I inquired. "Just get back home right now," he said bluntly, then hung up. Puzzled, I headed home. Entering the house, I heard the TV in the living room. "Harry, did something happen on your trip?" I asked as I opened the living room door. At that moment, I saw Harry talking with Ella. But as soon as he noticed me, Harry pulled away from her, then he got down on his knees. "I got your best friend pregnant," he blurted out. What is he talking about? I thought, feeling detached, like it was someone else's issue. But reality struck with the words Ella blurted out right in front of me. "Well, that's how it is." "So, you're going to divorce Harry, right, Yvonne? You're pregnant." Ella, my best friend, smirked and continued with a mocking look, "You figured it out, right? I'm taking your husband, so get out." Gladly, I replied with a smile and turned on my heel. Ella really is clueless, does she think I knew nothing about it? Of course, that's not true. I've known about you two for quite some time. I just didn't confront you until I was ready. But now you've made it easier for me by confessing to your affair. Well then, prepare yourselves because I'm going to return everything you've done to me with interest, I said to myself, smiling as I headed for the front door. Harry yelled as if trying to stop me, "You realize talking about divorce, right? Are you sure you understand that?" I understand perfectly. You think you can make it on just your part-time income after we divorce? Harry sneered. I sighed, then Harry, in his arrogant manner, offered, if you're really desperate, I might hire you to take care of my mom. That suits you perfectly, taking care of the elderly. Harry and Ella burst into laughter. Seeing them, I sighed again. Ella, you finally showed your true colors, huh? What are you talking about? Ella feigned ignorance. I snorted and continued, pretending to be my friend, introducing me to Harry. It was all just to use me conveniently, wasn't it? Oh, you knew, boring. Ella pouted. Yes, I realized your true nature when I found out about your affair with Harry. I showed them the evidence, photos of their affair. What the heck is that? Ella rushed over and stared at the phone screen. When she realized the photos were of them, she glared at me sharply. How long have you known? What, about 5 years? Don't joke with me. Ella raised her voice. I answered calmly, I was preparing for life after the divorce. I thought I'd be told I couldn't make it on my part-time income. I smiled at Harry, as if saying, just as I expected. Harry seemed infuriated by my attitude and suddenly started making a scene. Well then, get out as soon as you can. I'll send your stuff wherever you want. No need for that, most of my things are already at your mom's place. What? At my mom's? Harry's face changed color. I continued, trying to suppress a laugh. Didn't you notice that your wife's and family's belongings have been gradually disappearing? That's, pathetic, in more ways than one, I snorted. Harry, clearly agitated, raised his voice. Enough, then. There's no more to talk about. I'll be claiming alimony later. I'll give you the divorce papers. Then do whatever you want. Just be prepared, the cost of cheating isn't cheap. I looked back and forth between Harry and Ella, then left the house, heading straight to my in-laws' place. Elsie was preparing dinner when I arrived. Welcome back. What was it, Mom? Actually, I hesitated. Elsie, is it about the divorce? If so, I'm all for it. Aren't you, Elsie? Shocked, Elsie said, I don't need a dad like him. That's Elsie's catchphrase, so she was actually supporting the divorce. I finally realized how she felt. Elsie, I'm sorry I've caused you trouble. I'm fine, fine. But Grandma, Elsie glanced at my mother-in-law, realizing, I turned to her. Mom, it's okay. It's Harry's fault, isn't it? Well, yes, but... I averted my gaze. Then, my mother-in-law patted my head. So, you moved things along because you saw this coming. Yes, but what about you, Mom? It's fine. I've made up my mind too, my mother-in-law smiled warmly. I felt a sense of relief, and at the same time, tears started to flow. I had actually been encouraging her to consider moving into a care facility. It wasn't that I didn't want to take care of her, it was to ensure she wouldn't be in trouble when I got divorced. So, I was glad she was positive about moving into the facility. We had already been making progress with the arrangements, all that was left was to get her consent. Then I'll proceed with the care facility arrangements, please do, my mother-in-law nodded firmly. The next day, I began handling various procedures, looking for a new place, finding a lawyer. There was so much to do, especially finding a house for Elsie and me. Comfort was key. I visited several real estate agents. 3 days later, as I left a real estate office, my phone started ringing. Hello. The moment I answered, a loud voice blasted through. How many times do you think I've called you, Ella? I instinctively pulled the phone away and murmured, yes, it's me, Ella. Where are you? At a real estate office. Why? As I asked, Ella's voice got even louder. Real estate. Looking for a house with stolen money, are you? Stolen? What are you talking about? Don't play dumb. The passbook Harry gave me was empty. I tried to calm my breathing. I revealed the truth, the account was empty from the start. We were always struggling financially. Don't lie, Harry's company pays well. There's no way you had financial troubles, Ella's loud voice hurt my ear. I brought the phone back to my face and continued, well, no matter how good the salary, supporting a lover as well would naturally drain it. What do you mean? You still don't get it. That's why I patiently explained it to her. Actually, Harry had been splitting his salary into two parts, one for supporting our family and the other for spending on Ella. It looked like about 70% was for us, and the rest was used for Ella. I found out about this after I discovered their affair. Wanting more evidence, I hired a professional to investigate. That's when the salary issue came to light. When I told Ella this, she raised her voice in disbelief. What? You lived on 70% of his salary. That's impossible, stop lying. That's why I was working part-time. But that's... Ella stuttered. I pressed on, so, there's no money left. But you must have some, give it to me. Then, her audacity was astonishing, but I couldn't just let it slide. I only have what I earned myself. If you have a problem, I'll add it to the alimony. Add to it? Yes, the alimony I'll demand from you as the mistress. I was thinking of the usual amount, but since you're complaining. I was cut off as the phone call abruptly ended. After that, Ella didn't answer any of my calls. She must be reflecting, I thought, but it seemed not. The next day, Ella called again. As soon as I answered, she started yelling, "Where did you hide her? You don't answer my calls, and now what are you talking about? That woman, where did you put her? Who was she talking about? Surely not Elsie. What did she mean?" As I pondered, Ella couldn't hold back and shouted, "Harry's mother. She's got money, right? She's not at home, where did you hide her? Oh, you mean Mom, where is she? Tell me." Ella seemed quite desperate, realizing she was planning to ask my mother-in-law for money. I firmly refused, "Sorry, but I won't tell you." "Why not? She's got money, right? If not, sell the in-laws' house." Ella's greed was on full display. She talked about taking my mother-in-law's money or failing that, selling her house to get the cash. She repeated this several times. Sighing, I asked Ella, "You sure you want to discuss this with me?" "Doesn't matter. Once the divorce papers are in, you're just a stranger." That might be true, but what if I told my mother-in-law about her plans? Ella seemed unable to even consider that possibility. Had they been squandering that much money? I was baffled, but then I reconsidered. It's too much trouble. So, I'll tell you about my mother-in-law. You should have confessed from the start. Where is she? In a senior care facility. The address is... I gave Ella the address I had noted down. Ella began to laugh. I'll go there right away and start the process to sell the house." "That's impossible." "Why are you upset?" "No, it's just that the house doesn't exist anymore." As I said this, Ella's laughter abruptly stopped. After a pause, she cautiously asked me, "What do you mean my mother-in-law sold the house?" "The money was used for her care facility." "Sold it," I recalled. When I first suggested the care facility to my mother-in-law, she initially refused, citing the lack of funds for admission. That's when I proposed selling the house. She hesitated but eventually decided to sell. We didn't want Harry to catch on to our plans until I brought up divorce, so she continued living in the house, paying rent, until our divorce discussion started. And now here we are. So, she doesn't have any money left. That's right. This is your fault. Don't forget this. With a scream that sounded like the death throes, Ella hung up the phone. Anyway, she must have given up by now. Let those two do whatever they want. While thinking this, I methodically proceeded with the divorce procedures. First, I hired a lawyer to claim alimony. I was sure they would resist, but surprisingly, they accepted the amount suggested by the lawyer. Later, I received the alimony through the lawyer. At the same time, I signed the divorce papers and had them delivered to Harry. Harry apparently signed them readily, and I successfully completed the divorce. It took 3 months to finalize everything. It was tough, but I'm glad I persevered. Relieved, I went to thank my lawyer. That's when I was handed something unexpected, a wedding celebration party. It was an invitation to a wedding party. Ella, not knowing my home address, had left it with the lawyer. Was she inviting me to gloat as the woman whose husband was taken away? I was about to tear it up right there, but then I had a second thought. Harry's associates would surely be at the party. Maybe I could do something. I contacted a certain person. Sure enough, they had also received an invitation. So, I decided to attend the wedding party. The venue was a hotel's banquet hall. It was called a party, but it was essentially a wedding reception. They really went all out despite having no money. As I was thinking this, a voice came from behind, "Thank you for coming." I turned around to see Ella in a dress, with Harry beside her. If you're going to do this, you might as well have had a wedding. Sorry, I can't wear a wedding dress because I'm pregnant. Ella was clearly heavily pregnant. She was willing to go this far just to humiliate me. I responded, looking away, "Oh, right. But I'm glad you came." "I thought you wouldn't." Ella made a show of pretending to cry. "Don't cry now," I said, knowing full well. I looked around, noticing people quickly avert their eyes. Ella must have said something convenient for her. The atmosphere felt oddly cold. If that's how they want to play it, I'm ready to go all out. A fire ignited in my heart. Pretending to console Ella, I scanned the room for someone. Soon, I found the person I was looking for. "Oh, sorry. I see someone I know," I said quickly, excusing myself. For some reason, Ella followed me. But I expected this. She would want to make a spectacle of me, I thought. So, with that in mind, I decided to leave the place. I approached the person from behind. "Sorry to keep you waiting." The person turned around at my voice. It was Daisy. "Oh, you're already here." "Yes, just greeted my ex-husband and his new friend," as I gestured towards them. Harry suddenly became flustered. He awkwardly bowed to Daisy. Thank you for coming today. But why is Ione's friend here?" "I'm accompanying my husband, you know." "I don't think you've met him yet." Daisy smiled and pulled the arm of a man standing beside her. Harry's face went pale. Daisy introduced her husband to Harry. "This is my husband, Ted. He owns a local supermarket and is a customer of your company, Mr. Scott's." Harry looked away, embarrassed. Daisy's husband was a VIP customer of Harry's company. He bought not only his own car but also Daisy's car from Harry's dealership. He even referred his supermarket employees to Harry's company. In other words, he was a very important customer to Harry. It's no wonder Harry was panicking amidst this. Daisy introduced me to her husband. "This is my friend, Yvonne. We're partners in an investment company." As Daisy said this, Ella's face changed color. "Investment company? What's that?" "Exactly what it sounds like. Harry's salary wasn't enough, so I've always been investing, and it grew into this. This happened right after I discovered Harry and Ella's affair. I realized I needed a stable income for the divorce. That's when I turned to investing, something I started after getting married. Being a former banker, I had some knowledge about investments. Increasing my investment amount turned out to be a huge hit. Before I knew it, I had a stable income. I told Daisy about it, and she became interested. We started investing together, and soon other mom friends caught wind of it. Then we thought, why not start a company? So we did, and that's how we started our business. So, after the divorce, I started working at the investment company. I have a good income now, and I'm glad I got divorced. What do you mean? How about you? Did you manage to get the money? Ella looked away, obviously upset. I continued with a smile, well, you must be in a tougher financial situation now, huh? Because Harry is in such a state, right? I pointed to where Harry was kneeling. Apparently, he had been scolded by Daisy's husband. I'm sorry my affair caused all this. I'll be honest from now on. Please continue doing business with us. Harry was desperately apologizing, but Daisy's husband ignored him. In the end, Harry was left in the lurch. After losing an important client, he became an outcast at work, talked about behind his back by bosses and colleagues. Unable to bear such a life, Harry resigned. Meanwhile, pregnant Ella pressed Harry for a divorce, but being pregnant, she couldn't work. Reluctantly, she decided to divorce. After giving birth, they are currently in the midst of a messy divorce trial. To cover the costs of the trial, Harry works at a construction site, while Ella works at a nightclub. They both toil tirelessly, each trying to discredit the other in court. I heard all this from my mother-in-law, whom I still visit after the divorce. Elsie is her granddaughter, after all. Elsie is preparing for her middle school entrance exams next year. Mom, is it okay if I go to a private school? Do we have enough money? Of course, dear. Mom will work hard, so you should too. Okay, I want to be like you, Mom, so I'll do my best. Elsie gives me the strength to keep going. I met my true friend, Daisy. My happiness is all thanks to Elsie. I'd do anything for her, that's how strongly I feel.